Bueno, por favor, invitamos a todos a sentarse. Vamos a arrancar.
Please take your seats and we are going to continue with our next panel. Artificial intelligence and its impact on lawyers, companies, near future. Megan Carpenter, the deacon and a teacher from the University of New Hampshire, Franklin, United States. Luiz Henrique, the partner of Dannemann, Siemsen, Brazil. David Gómez, managing partner from Baylos 5.0, legal advisor, SL Spain. Moderator, Marcelo García Serra, associated consultant in Gordó, Llobell and Associates, Argentina. Thank you. Good morning for being here. And I apologize for my voice. It's quite difficult to moderate a panel after 2 days of being here in Mexico.
Or Bradbury is now, is present, is no future, is happening. So with Megan, David, and Luiz, we will review the landscape of the application of IA in law service industries, which is quite a challenge. So we start with you, Megan. So we would like to have your insights and thoughts about how law schools are dealing with education in a different present in which IA is part of legal services. How are you educating future professionals, people that already have been graduated? And the second question for you is, are there papers or studies about how law firms are implementing IA? Please, Megan.
Thank you so much. I forgot the clicker. Thank you so much. It is such a pleasure to be here with you all today and to talk about some of these issues that are present in law firms and law schools, and we all need to partner together to find a way forward. I'm going to start out with a little bit of the history and mythology around AI, because it feeds into some of the current issues and concerns that we really have with AI adoption, and some of the things that underlie what is considered among some industries for the legal services industry to have a slow adoption of AI tools. So perhaps AI begins in some way with the 1940s in popular culture, with the Tin Man from The Wizard of Oz, of being kind of a robot working without a heart. Or around that time with Fritz Lang's Metropolis, which was the first time that a robot was shown to be part of a movie. And that was demonstrated as kind of an homage to immortality and also the concept of having a robotic evil twin. In the 1950s, the term artificial intelligence came on the scene, and I'm very proud, as Dean of the University of New Hampshire, Franklin Pierce, that the place that artificial intelligence was used for the first time was actually in my state of New Hampshire at a conference by John McCarthy, who had a certain fascination, again, with robots. And the conversations around AI really focused on this idea of kind of a robot. And the first time that, let me see. So the first time that a robot actually was shown to kind of be released into the world and have some kind of independent processing capabilities was in Shaky, the first mobile robot. And he could perceive and reason about things like route planning, trying to get from one place to another, arranging simple objects, thinking about kind of how to structure a sequence independently. And Life magazine called him in 1970, they referred to Shaky as the first electronic person. And then kind of in the, you can see the slide with the famous chess game between Garry Kasparov and Deep Blue, IBM's computer, which I think is really important because it's a testament to both the capabilities and the limitations of AI and how those tend to collapse. Because what we saw in 1996 was an intense chess match between Deep Blue and Garry Kasparov, and Garry Kasparov won. In 1997, a year later, an intense chess match, and Deep Blue won. So what we see is the use of training data makes AI and its failures better all the time. So the potential that we have for AI in the legal services industry has been a topic for the last couple of decades, and the potential is significant. We have general discussion and speculation and questions about how this could help us with access to justice issues. Can we make legal services efficient and cheaper? Can we improve the quality of the services we provide our clients? And does this have anything to do with worker satisfaction? Could it increase? Could it plummet? But in all of these discussions we've been having for about 20 years now, we've all been very slow to adopt tools. Now, most lawyers don't like taking risks. Lawyers are one of the most risk-averse professions. Congratulations. And law schools are also risk-averse. You know, lawyers tend to have personality traits that make them less open to trying new things. And I would say that research shows that the biggest, most common personality trait among lawyers is skepticism. And this helps us do our job well, right? An aversion to change can be helpful as we're trusted to manage really important issues for our clients and in their lives. Law schools also are incredibly traditional and have a hard time adapting to change. Walk into a library and you'll see a whole lot of books, and you're not going to see those books being checked out anymore by students. Universities and law schools in many ways look about like they did 150 years ago, although our market and the needs of our clients, the needs of training and our students are changing dramatically. So it's kind of hard for us to imagine moving from this kind of old law firm idea with the office and the desk and the private space to something like a new law office where all of a sudden, you know, our space doesn't matter. What does it even mean anymore to be in the office? That is something that we're all kind of adapting and changing on a weekly and a yearly basis, particularly as we emerge from the pandemic. And our offices are augmented with all kinds of technological tools. And AI has the potential to supplant some tasks and help also work with us to achieve greater skills than we were perhaps capable of before. But there's really a fear that comes from all of the mythology that we were just talking about. What happens if we're better at our jobs if we don't have a heart? What happens if these tools actually supplant us and then we're no longer needed? And so this kind of fear about being replaced, about what it means to work better and more efficiently, that doesn't help assuage that deep-seated skepticism that we all have that makes us so good at what we do. But this really will be normalized over time. Like other augmentations that we use all the time, I wake up and I cannot see until I put my contact lenses in. And that augmentation for me is an important part of my functioning as I go about my life. And augmentations that we use, tools that we use to make us better at seeing or walking or eating have been normalized as part of the human experience. And I think that what we are seeing with the commercialization of large language models, LLMs, in the past year has really brought this to the fore. And avoiding change now means that we will be missing out on opportunities to improve our practice and our industry, and most importantly, the services that we provide to clients. So the dialogue over the past decade in regard to AI and legal services has talked a lot about access to justice. 80% of people who need help with their legal issues don't get it. And people who have access to a lawyer fare much better than people who do not have access to a lawyer. So there's a latent legal market out there and an opportunity for us to serve more people. And our discussions previously have been mostly about using tools to review documents, to do legal research and automated searches of universes of case law and statutes, proofreading and error correction, contract analysis, maybe even having automated call centers to help troubleshoot or help direct clients to where they need to go. But with this commercial release of large language models to the public, these conversations are expanding in new directions. And so what I'm going to do is to talk about 3 studies. And gosh, as an academic, I'm probably the last academic that likes to talk about academic papers because mostly I find them not practical. But these studies that are happening right now around AI and the adoption of tools in the workforce are empirical studies that are doing some really good work to help us kind of distill some truths and maybe even overcome some of our skepticism. So these 3 studies that I'm gonna talk about now, the first is the Boston Consulting Group worked with the Harvard Business School to essentially do some research on their own employees. They did a joint study on using AI tools in knowledge-intensive applications. So not the kind of document analysis, research, editing, proofreading that we've been thinking about in the past regarding using AI tools, but something that's more advanced, kind of a higher level knowledge application. And the study tracked the productivity and the accuracy of their employees on specific tasks at a kind of rather complex level. And those findings showed that using large language models, employees were able to complete over 12% more tasks, 25% faster, with 40% higher quality results. Now, here's a big caveat. When the tasks were outside the kind of frontier capabilities, outside the basic capabilities of the AI tool, pushing the large language model beyond its comfort zone, then we see a steep decline. And in fact, 19% of those were less likely to get a correct resolution than someone without using an AI tool. Okay, so the second one, and all of these are in the past year. So Noy and Zhang produced a paper that they looked at ChatGPT in writing. We all know that that's a huge part of what we do every day, and that it is important for us to be able to communicate complex concepts in a way that is understandable for our audience, whether that is a judicial audience or a client audience, and to do it in a way that is accurate and nuanced. That sounds like a difficult task for anything other than human. And so this particular study is, I would say, especially relevant in the legal services industry. And they looked at, this study was, I think, 444 college-educated people at kind of mid-level careers in marketing, legal services, HR, data analysis, consultants, grant writers, managers of organizations. And the tasks that they looked at included short reports, analysis plans, grants, press releases, even delicate emails where you just have to say quite the right thing. I imagine that was mostly the HR professionals. And what they found was that using an AI tool substantially increased the productivity, reduced inequality, so it helps the lower level workers a lot more than the higher level workers. I guess how you feel about that depends on where you're situated. Restructures human tasks toward kind of idea generation. So the people could be focused more on idea generation, and the AI tool could be doing the boring, rough drafting stuff. It increased job satisfaction and happiness, and increased, I thought this was interesting on an emotional scale, both excitement and concern, right back to that fear. Okay, so number 3. Choi and Schwartz looked directly at the legal services industry and went into law school and somehow got law students to take exams twice. I don't know how much they would have to pay to do me to do something like that. So they went in, and there were law students that took exams without using large language model, generative AI tools, and then that did. And the use of GPT-4 to take a law school exam significantly enhanced the performance on multiple choice questions, but did not significantly enhance performance on complex essay questions. The impact overall depended, again, much like the second study I was telling you about, on the student's skill level, where if students were at a lower skill level, if they didn't do as well, it helped their score shoot up dramatically. For those students at the top of the class, it didn't particularly improve, and it may have brought them down a couple of points as well. So AI tools can have kind of an equalizing effect. And again, between sort of elite and non-elite lawyers, and again, I think how any of us feels about that might depend on how much we feel expert at our particular position. So they went in and they looked at graded exams with GPT-4 alone, humans alone, and then humans working with GPT-4. And what they found was that while the performance varied substantially depending on the prompting methodology, those students who had training in drafting prompts, the prompt engineering that we're calling it now, those tools were able to do not just better than students working without the tools, but the access to AI, the access tools, with optimal prompting outperformed both the average student and the average student with access to AI. That might be where the fear comes in and the excitement, because that finding has important implications for the future of work. There might be times where it is best to remove humans entirely, and we might come out with a better result. But what I like to focus on is that the AI training, when you think about how to use these tools and doing prompt engineering and reducing failure, that the training and the education is absolutely critical for success as we implement these kinds of tools across our organizations. So these are some of the conclusions. As we see these 3 studies, we have some conclusions that are starting to kind of coalesce. We're seeing surprising abilities way beyond what we thought what we were talking about when it was mostly document review and analysis over the last 20 years or so. Increased productivity, lesser skilled workers benefit the most, training is critical, and that the AI tools, the large language models, do have failure points beyond their own comfort zone, but that with the training data, they improve very, very quickly. Also increased worker satisfaction and happiness, and interestingly, across each of these studies, upper management was always a little bit more enthusiastic about implementing the tools than perhaps the lower level workers were themselves. Probably as we all think about sort of budgeting and efficiencies, that probably explains most of it. So what I did was to survey law school deans in the United States and ask them about their incorporation, because our job is to train lawyers that you want to hire. So if there is training and education to be had that you need us to be doing, then we need to be communicating about that, and we need to be implementing that at the legal education level. It's not fair for us to graduate students who are not prepared to hit the ground running and to be able to practice law with you and to add value sooner and sooner. And what I've learned in the responses to the survey was that most law schools in the US haven't yet incorporated substantial AI training, but they intend to, they will. They're in this kind of waiting mode and discussion mode around there. So here are some of the key findings from the survey. There is a lot of discussion that's going on in legal education right now. And of those that are including training on AI tools, it's a wide spectrum ranging from kind of, a student is required to use ChatGPT on one writing assignment to a school that would have an entire R&D lab for faculty and train students on document assembly tools and expert systems and have training students on developing the tools with coding themselves. So that's a big differential between those levels of training. The substantial majority agree that students should be prepared and they should be trained to use AI tools in practice. And most don't have a dedicated class, but most expect to have a class that is fully dedicated to AI training in the coming years. Most do have policies around using large language models and generative AI on exams and homework. There's the concept of academic freedom, where a lot of law school administrators are leaving decisions to individual faculty members of how they want to conduct their classrooms and to what extent they want to incorporate these tools. That's great, and it allows professors a lot of freedom and independence. On the other hand, it can lead to sort of a lack of innovation system-wide in legal education because of that kind of distance. When it comes to the people who are most engaged, very similar in law schools as law firms, it's the upper management that's really driving that kind of discussion. But I will say that in law schools, that's a little bit of a contrast. There's a lot of stakeholder engagement. Students are interested in talking about it. Faculty are interested in talking about it. It impacts kind of library and legal writing faculty are two areas that seem to be most affected. Okay, so what have we learned? And I'm hoping here we can move beyond just having contact lenses and glasses and using a fork and knife to jetpacks. And we'll have, using these AI tools, how do we combine all this and what have we learned from looking at some of the scholarly research and some of the work being done in legal education? First, law firms and law schools are cautious, and cautious can be good. But I think it's important to separate healthy skepticism that we all have from the myth, from the fear. And at some point, it's going to be riskier not to engage with large language models as a business than to do so. And I think we may soon be at that point. AI tools can also increase productivity and worker satisfaction and efficiency and quality. And those are all great things, not just for us as we operate businesses, but for our clients. And the thing that I love most of all, and something that is just a testament to ASIPI and the work that they are doing to bring so many emerging contemporary issues to discussion over these last few days, that training and education and discussion, these are the keys. And it's critical that legal education take a leading role, just as law firms are taking a leading role. So more dialogue and more communication will be valuable, and we can keep the heart in the Tin Man. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Megan. David, tu turno. ¿Cuál sería la perspectiva europea, si cabe?
David, it's your turn. What about the European point of view regarding the AI on legal services? Thank you so much. First of all, thank you to ASIPI for this invite. I'm so happy, and I've learned how well things are organized with so much love. Everything has been organized, and we're feeling at home. Thank you so much. Well, this is small dialogue that I'm going to stay with you. I will try to cover some practical aspects regarding two basic things. The first one, it's going to be to analyze the cases of use. You're in one here with a group of works with different firms in Spain. We've been analyzing how the tools work. And this is what I'm going to share with you, which are what are the ones that are available, the more trustable ones or not. And secondly, we'll talk about the challenges for the integration of AI and the lawyer firms, because the truth is it's already here. The development is exponential, and it's going to be quantic, because I was talking with a peer, and it's not an option to stay seated down without doing nothing, because it's already the development it's already taking place significantly. So this slide, I introduced this slide this morning because when I'm talking with a friend, I noticed that, well, there's a difference between the AIG and the AI. It's a basic foundation to understand. The AI, the generative AI, it's only a language model. The Gen AI will be capable to give answer and to create new content, but at the end, it's a language model that is learning to talk. It's like a child that it's taught. You taught the Gen AI data, and with that we are training it. So with the different patterns, it will be capable of giving answer. It's like creating a dialogue. In fact, later on, I will ask you to assess the tools of a Gen AI as a peer, one more peer like junior or someone that can help us, compared with the artificial intelligence, that it's a software using algorithms with automatized learning, and they are very useful softwares that I will refer to later on. The nuclear tool, it's ChatGPT. It's a tool that's Outlook or Excel, and it's the tool of reference, and that you might all have heard about it, and for sure many of you have already used. This is very basic and the foundations, because when we were talking at with the moderator, they told me to talk about the regulations. That's not very interesting. What I was just going to mention is that in the European Union, it's pretending to be a hub that will defend and will try to have a great development of artificial intelligence. There's a proposal for a guidelines from the year 2021 that it's under development currently, and that will regulate very important aspects such as the extraterritorial scope, and most relevant for me, it will regulate two things. Regulate like the AI systems will be subject to obligations and prohibitions, and for these, 4 risk levels have been created depending on if it's affecting health, security and safety, values of the European Union, or fundamental rights. And according to these 4, they will establish AI that's prohibited, the middle risk or zero risk. So the tools for lawyers are going to be focused in minimum on new risk, because they're going to be tools for helping the work development and performance, and will not affect the other topics that I mentioned. As you know, the European Union can legislate, and legislation creators are above the national rights, and it's above all legislation of the different countries, and they are creating very high sanctions at the European Union. They love to sanction everything. They're 30, for example, 30 million of euros, or 6% of the total volume of work. They really want to pay attention to all the data, because it's a language system that need data. They're going to highly regulate the use and management of data, and this regulation will stick to it. I don't want to extend myself in that because the European regulations needs to start, regularly start 1 year, but it takes so long for them to be implemented that when they come in force, they are already obsolete. And for example, this one, if approved in the year 2024, it will not be until the 2026 that will be applicable. And if we started in the 2019, 7 years it's going to pass. So it's very feasible probably that when it is already in force, it's going to be obsolete. Now let's go to the cases, the use cases. We've been working with a group of firms working through ChatGPT that knowing how are we as lawyers going to use these tools, if they're reliable or not, and I will show you the results. Basically, there were 4 tasks that we were going to try in the artificial AI. First, writing documents. Second, answering questions. Or the other one, giving a type of legal support. For example, for document analysis, what we've been analyzing is, for example, contracts crossing different, for example, the different documents. Sometimes you make so many changes on the document that you don't understand the document. I'm always asking for help. ChatGPT works excellent when you giving all the documents and data for it to analyze it, make and summarize. They give us the position of each one of the parties to highlight the differences, and for that it works pretty well. So you give the content, and the tool will only summarize and read it. It also worked pretty well to work with different languages. You can have one language translated to another, and it's done excellently well.
And therefore, for this type of work, it works well. The reliability will depend definitely of conducting the proper query and the data being supplied. So therefore, for the document analysis, given that it will also require the review by the lawyer, I have reached the conclusion that it will not substitute the lawyer, but in very basic operations or some actions like due diligence. Imagine when you have a sale, purchase, or an acquisition of a company or brand. For that basic task, it will actually save us a lot of time and help us a lot. Thus, reducing the hours of work of professionals. For the drafting of legal documents, imagine drafting an opposition to a brand or a nullity demand or a letter of requirement. The result is bad. It can offer you some ideas. When you play with ChatGPT, you may have used all of that and you add things. Of course, that is okay. But when you are a lawyer, you need to provide juridical certainty to your customers. Well, it cannot offer you that. But in a recent publication, we have seen that it has a light opportunity of future development. It is a general tool with not a juridical development, but now they are preparing sections in areas like juridical or medicine, and it is expected that with those juridical developments, when including the doctrine, legislation, resolutions, and models, it can actually help you to draft relatively simple documents, legal documents, or some forms or lawsuits that have a very, very traditional model. And as I said, until this not being resulted, the results are deceitful because they have not a specialized ground. It is more reliable. Instead of AI tools, use other mature technologies like software for the documenting of tasks or software forms, which is part of the past. But with those forms, it will be far more safe to draft a lawsuit, which does not substitute the lawyer. We will continue to work and we will not lose our jobs. And that is the most important thing, so don't worry. I was thinking about that last night, so then So if I will be substituted, then there's no point for coming here. Well, thank you, Gabriel, for taking that language away from us. No, I understand that. Well, the third task, the resolution of juridical aspects. Well, when we ask, I don't know, maybe how to regulate a brand, or then a description of an action, or how do I calculate an indemnation, and that is a very entertaining game because it offers interesting answers. I was asking yesterday because I wanted to include a video, and I did not because I didn't have the time. So I wanted to know how to register a brand in Mexico, and it gave me a very acceptable information, but it would either help you very accurately. It is only an approach for the legal world, for a query, and it can guide you, but not to solve issues. In fact, when during the queries it's being modified, and at the end would only add you a comment that says, in either case, I am not an expert on the matter, and I recommend you to ask a specialized consultant in the country to help you, okay? So I asked in case that if he was informed, he said, I said, can you recommend one? And he said, no, I do not, I cannot do that. So certainly somebody may have help us, because, and the big challenge would be to improve this type of task. What was commented, and in one of these meetings with Microsoft, they thought by offering specialized data, juridical data, and constant updatings, because it has not been updated since 1992. So the contents is from before that date, plus artificial intelligence, plus any other tool pretending to be developed, can offer better results. So for the time being, it would not solve anything either, unless the juridical support. We have proven, for instance, an interrogation to a counterpart, or to find strong or weak points in a report. I think it is creative. It offers you some ideas, like a virtual colleague, when asking them, would you have 5 minutes? Can you help me with this? What is your opinion? What can we do? Give me your view. And maybe they give you an answer that might not be so good, or it could be good. So the same thing, we have tried that, and all of a sudden you have an expert report, and then ask to prepare the questionnaire, and you ask to detect strong or weak points, and it does, but it does not have a lot of accuracy. It is only kind of an example, and maybe once you could find a good answer, but it is a very limited help, but it cannot substitute as lawyers either. So therefore, the conclusion of these cases of use of practice during a year would be, for the future and present and how development is, that for the analysis of documents, it works very well, and it will work even better, that you yourself will fit the documents, and therefore we give green light to the drafting of juridical documents, not in the moment, but in the future with the development it will have, it will be solved. To solve juridical aspects, it does not work, and there is some series of what the development would be, and for the juridical support, we have a yellow or orange, because it is not yes nor no, because in the future it could have a future. These are the cases of used for 1 year and doing testing. Next, I will tell you what the challenges are for the integration of AI in the law firms. And in the end, we all work in law firms. And now it is not an option not to consider AI. That may sound like something very big, but those are only tools to help us to improve the performance in our job. So we will see one by one. And I only have like 7 minutes, I guess. 5? Okay, 5. So then, with less than 1 minute with every one of them, first, we need to create a culture in the law firm. Would go to very key points. This is a project of signature. This is not the fact that a senior says, no, I like this and I will develop that. No, it demands time and investment, and if the law firm is not aligned in the development of tools and the use of tools, it will not work, okay? Secondly, we need to define the law firm objectives. There might be direct objectives like improving efficiency or profitability, because we need more economic resources than those of people. We could have indirect goals offering an image of modern company and improve competitivity. We can have short, medium, and long-term goals. So we need to define our goals. So we say, okay, we want to invest on this, and we need to dedicate time and budget. What is the point we want to reach? So that is a very important aspect. And third, indicating the tools to be used in the firm. If we don't know, we can ask among the law firms, the lawyers ask less than in the in-house lawyers. It is very common to do consultations outside of the company, but many times we find it very difficult to do and to ask for help to identify tools to help us to solve it. And there are countries where we can develop tools ad hoc for the law firms. And to me, this is a firm with a good size, so that you have the possibility to do that for an important investment of time, the technical knowledge, the development of security, and we can do that, or otherwise to go to third parties. Here you have some tools that we have tested, some of them, for instance, like the Patent Pal for patents, when you feed data, and it tells you a first draft that is quite acceptable. So these tools work, and well, you can look at them and you can review that. Very important to control the risks of the use of technology. This is important to me. The protocols have been designed that the students can use. It is very important that the law firm needs to create immediately, even if it's not creating the artificial intelligence, to create protocols of what to do and what not to do. You cannot find a surprise that a lawyer does some work and he uses AI, and then it happens that, as it has happened in the United States, where there is a complaint and most of the references did not exist, because remember that the artificial intelligence had hallucinations, and it is very credible. And it is like politicians, because they can, without having information, giving you an answer, and if you don't agree, then it can give you a different answer. And this is the way it works, and it can do that. So, well, protocols on the use of artificial intelligence, and very important protocols of safety, both internal and external, who can gain access to the data of the law firm. And very important as well to me, the preparing reports with the cases of views of all the firm, so that all the firm knows what for it is being used, or how it works. And sometimes a colleague of you may not know when the firm has a certain size, so establish a certain amount of reports and some periodicity. Specific training, we have mentioned that is key. Most of law firms and the universities, I don't understand why continue to have obsolete curricula. You can study the law today the way you did it 20 years ago. And then the relationship with the customer, we need to be very clear with the customer. If we use artificial intelligence, there is no purpose to try to prove that you have a technology you don't. And about the fees, which is a concern, that they will not increase or not lower. Sometimes some basic activities are reduced, therefore those are juniors improvements, and that will reduce fees. But we would also need more work from the seniors, and commonly their price is more expensive, therefore it will increase. So compensation should exist. And finally, and I promise that this is the last, I will offer you a video from 1999 of David something. You will see the name, and you will see that when the internet was kind of burning, I think that it was created in 1998 and it started to work in 1999, people would say, what is internet? So, or it was a visionary or a crazy guy. So you will listen what he used to say when the interviewer said, and I ask you, what do you think now, or what happens with AI?
That is going to do to society, both good and bad, is unimaginable. I think we're actually on the cusp of something exhilarating and terrifying.
It's just a tool, though, isn't it?
No, it's not. No, it's an alien life form.
What do you think, I mean, when you think then about...
Is there life on Mars? Yes, it's just landed here.
But it's simply a different delivery system, though. You're arguing about something more profound.
Oh yeah, I'm talking about the actual context and the state of content is going to be so different to anything that we can really envisage at the moment, where the interplay between the user and the provider will be so in simpatico, it's going to crush our ideas of what mediums are all about.
Bueno, pues espero que todos queramos ser David.
Well, I hope that we all want to be David Bowie, not the guy in the tie, because otherwise we wouldn't have a big future. Thank you very much. Thank you, David. At the beginning, you removed anguish from us, and now we have regained certain level of stress. Luiz.
Impact of IA in law firms.
In order not to let Megan to be the only one to use the podium, I'll also go to the podium, and
Please.
so you'll not be the only one there. Well, first of all, as you all know, in ASIPI, Portuguese is one of the languages, official languages of ASIPI. And I could officially be speaking in Portuguese. The only problem is that 95% of the people in the room wouldn't understand anything I would say. So excuse, but I will speak in English, as my Spanish is not also that good, and I could do some silly things. So I prefer to be more comfortable in English. Thanks, Marcelo, for the invitation. Thanks, ASIPI, for the invitation. Thank all of you for being here to discuss a little bit what the future will be. I think this concerns all of us. This is already here. This is already happening. When we talk about AI, don't take a mistake. Everybody's using, probably in your firm, right now, people are using and you don't know. And that's the greatest risk. So the first thing it's been already dealt in the previous presentations is this differentiation between generative AI and the traditional AI. The most critical difference, and without going into details, is that the generative AI is able to create content by itself. So it can, based on the information it already has, their data bank, the information they got, they can propose a solution. Be an image that doesn't exist before, or a chat bot that would answer questions, or a video that is created without any real person being part of it. So the generative AI is really able to generate, inspired on human thinking, generate new content. This is a very highly sophisticated kind of system. I think that we are in the infancy of that system. We will see right now just the tip of the iceberg. This is going to grow, and it's going to grow fast, and it's going to be hard for all of us to follow the developments. The Economist, the magazine, has recently published an article specifically dealing with the legal profession. And although there are risks, although lawyers are conservative and skeptical, as Megan said, it's a reality. It's going to happen. And we have to be aligned with the future. We cannot let all the developments that are happening not to help you and your firm and your partners and your associates and everybody in your firm. I will try to give a very practical aspects of how to implement in a Latin American firm, as it is our case, the possibilities, not only of generative AI, but also the traditional AI. The traditional AI is a deep automation where you have systems and algorithms that will basically take predefined tasks and predefined information and process it in order to automate some sort of tasks that are to be performed. So I will be dealing with two of them because they're dramatically different and they are totally different technologies. But in a way, as you are the end user, they may have some connection, especially in law firms. So, and when we deal with the robotics, we're not dealing with robotics in the physical world, but the robotics are small systems that are prepared in order to execute very specific tasks and to automate and integrate that information within a broader system. So, for instance, in one of the updating systems in our firm, we have more than 200 robots. Basically, these robots are executing very, very specific tasks and bringing the information to a broader system where it's going to be processed and will allow for automation of certain steps. And I'll try to show you a little bit later on. So, when we do in the firm with the AI project, you have to understand the options that exist right now. And they may have a very, very difficult impact in the firm. So if we think about chatbots and apps that are available in the market, and the most traditional one right now is ChatGPT, although there are many others, and every day there is something new coming up. Well, that system and that information that you place there and the questions you ask and the information you put there and the documents you disclose, they become public information. They go into the system and can be probably used to your competitor if they ask the right question. So you have to be very careful with this generally available generative AI systems because you may be losing a lot of proprietary information. The second option is, well, there are systems there that you can hire. You can have an agreement, confidentiality agreement, and be sort of protected. But the fact is that once you start using the system, although the system will not generally disclose your information or your uses to other people in the world, it will use that information to teach the system, and then it will be used again for your competitors. But you have to decide what kind of protection and what kind of benefit you want to get out of those systems. I can give two examples. One is Kyra. Kyra, and all the names I will mention, I'm not recommending. I don't receive any commission. I will not be, it's just a fact. It's there. So you have to understand that's there. Kyra is a contract analysis system that actually, although it compares changes in the agreement, they should compare if the drafts are updated, if there's been any changes that you have not been tracked, it improves the contract. There is one function which is basically, here's my contract, improve it. I want to have a very, very solid, complex contract. You put there, and it will improve your contract. Of course, AI, at least in the stage we are right now for law firms, this is just going to be a tool for you to do your work, to improve your work, to gain time, to spend less time in certain functions, especially if they are repetitive. So you have to be careful because human interaction is necessary. So the first thing is that legal profession is not going to go away. And the Economist article is very clear about all the developments. They say, well, lawyers will continue to be here. The human review of documents, of strategies, of interaction with the clients, this is going to be here. But it will be helped. And the fact is that if you put in one of the systems, the contract, you put a 3-page contract, maybe it's going to come out as 25-page. And you still have to review it to make sure that it's applicable to the case you're dealing with, but it helps. The other one, especially in the area of patents, is Docera. Docera proposes to draft a new patent. So if you provide the right information about the state of the art, about your inventions, what you want to protect, it will come up with a draft of a patent. Again, I think we are in the childhood of those systems, but the fact is that it's coming, and it's coming fast. And as more people use those systems, the system starts learning and improving and developing new possibilities. So, and another one that's very interesting in the legal profession is the predictive analytics. This is a system where you can insert what you're looking for in terms of data, and it will come out and say what's your chances, your probability of winning or losing the case. What are your strong points and what are your weak points in the case? So this is something that's being developed. It's not yet there, but it's coming, and especially in the US for litigation. Litigators are starting to use it just to check their opinion, just to make sure that they are consistent with information that may already be there, all the case law or precedents that are there. What is my likelihood of success? These are systems that are going to come, and it will continue to improve. As regards law firms' proprietary and exclusive AI apps, I've seen already large law firms that are developing their own systems and their own chatbots and apps. So they are hiring large software developers to work with them to develop their own. They want to be proprietary. They are afraid that the use of their material on any of those possible tools may damage their knowledge and all the experience they've achieved. So this is three possibilities that the firms, they have to be in mind. And when you think about developing an AI project, I'm going to talk about just two phases. There is a third phase, but I'm just going to talk about two phases. The first one is obvious. Let's assume that people are using AI in your firm. Chatbot for ChatGPT and others that are available. So you have to assume people will be using, and you have to control it. You have to make sure that the use is proper, because improper use may create a lot of problems. For instance, privacy issues. If your teams internally don't have a clear rule of what they can put on these tools to research, they may be disclosing more information than they should. They may be disclosing information about cases, about clients, about trademarks, about patents, about designs, and you don't even know. And this creates a huge problem in terms of privacy. And if there is a leak that is not being authorized, although your firm was not officially supporting such use, you may be legally liable. So be aware. Again, as I mentioned, all the information you put on the systems become public, and you have to be careful, because what you want to disclose, what you want your teams to disclose, it's very important you regulate. Copyright infringement. The first cases are already popping up of trademark infringement, even with ChatGPT. Why? Because these systems, they have to start researching and preparing their response from somewhere. And most of the time, they create their own content. So ChatGPT even has a disclaimer saying that there is no copyright on the content, and it's been developed freely. But the fact is that sometimes it can be a portion of the document, be a copy of something from somewhere. And that may be running the risk for the firm to be liable for infringements. And AI hallucination. It's critical that you control. What is that? Is that those machines, they think like a human being, but they don't have the same kind of restraints that we have. They assume they need to provide you with an answer. And if they don't have an answer, they create one. They invent an answer. And there was the famous case of Mr. Schwartz in the US that prepared his motions in court based on AI and presented. Of course, the other party went to investigate and found out that all the case law that was cited was invented. It was just a creation of the app, which means that you have to be careful, and you have to be very careful. And in Brazil, we had a very recent case. Seems that everybody's looking at the lawyers, what the lawyers are doing with AI. Well, very recently in Brazil, a judge issued her decision entirely based on ChatGPT. And when the parties went there to check what was going on, all the laws that were cited were invented. They never existed. There were numbers, articles, numbers of the laws, and they didn't exist. Of course, the judge was suspended, and the case is being investigated. But you have to be careful, so always check. And one thing that's very important that you have to do is, on the systems, they answer based on what you ask. And what you ask, we call prompts. So the prompts are the questions and how to structure the questions, how the questions are prepared in a way that you get the most reliable answer. So this is something else that's very important for law firms, to provide internal training on prompts. And there are consultants that provide this kind of help. And you have to look into options to make sure that, since you people will be using it, make sure that they use it properly. They make the right questions with the right structure to get the right answer. Phase 2, for me, it is important that you can list all your needs and the possible uses, and identify all possible apps, tools, and systems available in the market. Of course, we lawyers, we don't tend to have the time or the patience to investigate those. But again, there are consultants in the market that they are specializing. As Megan said about the schools, I think this is going soon to be a mandatory class in any school. You have to learn how to structure your prompts and your AI activities. There is, of course, a job impact, and you have to analyze the job impact. You probably, especially in IP firms, where we tend to have a lot of routine work done by administrative staff, that might be impacted. That might change. Probably you need people more qualified. You need people with some knowledge of the use of the systems, and the profession will change. And I think that even the legal profession will change. I can see a future where a lawyer that doesn't know how to operate those tools may be outdated, may be out of competition with what's more the best quality and more efficient way to provide counseling. And you have to set up a strategy on how you are going to implement it. And then you come into the idea of a committee. And it's very important to have a committee with a specialist in this area, someone from IT of your firm, the partners, and some young associate that's using these systems, so that you have a project that is comprehensive and that you can get the best benefit of all the options that exist. I'm going to talk a little bit about Dannemann. I've been asked to address it from the standpoint of a Latin American firm as well. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what we are doing. Most of what we are doing right now, it is based on traditional AI. So it's a series of deep automation tools and robots that we've been using to be able to provide the service to our clients. But we are starting to add some possibilities based on generative AI. I'm going to talk very quickly about this. First, we have a portal that's now, it's operational for clients, and some of the associates that work with us, you probably have been now using part of the systems to put all your invoices and informations and upload documents that will be in the system. And the idea of the system is to be totally automatic, where the clients, the associates, and our firm will be integrated in one portal for that client. Of course, for the clients there that have been selected or that have agreed to use the portal. And everything is going to be done inside the portal. The instructions, the deadlines, the documents, the reviews, the search, the filing, everything inside the system that's going to be, ideally, as human distant as possible. In other words, we are trying to achieve a system that will use very little human interaction. And especially with filing, I'm going to show you also an example. Also, this system, it's sometimes critical for a client, which is the budget management. And the budget management for the companies is very, very important, because as it reaches the end of the year, they are running out of budget, and then they are desperate to cut costs, what they could have been doing all the year long. So the system will not only provide information on invoices that have been issued, or cases that are expected to generate costs, but also on what the client has used but has not yet been billed. So for the internal in-house manager, this is very critical to know exactly where they are with the budget. And the clients that have been used, this is just partially operational right now, but we have one client that's fully operational. He's been like our pilot in a way. And internal commercial team is very happy with the system because of the predictability of the expenses. We are also working on the client journey experience. Well, we all know of the client journey. For instance, if you buy something on Amazon or Mercado Libre or Booking, you immediately know that you are dealing with a client experience. You place your order, immediately you receive through WhatsApp or email, you receive the confirmation that your order has been placed, that the product is now it's available in the inventory, that the product has been transferred to the transportation company, that your invoice has been mailed, and this goes everything automatically in those companies. And the question is, shouldn't the IP firms also be thinking about the journey, the client's experience, to make it easier for the client to receive of information, order a search? So you have automatically through WhatsApp or email, your search has been received, has been sent to the search department. The search department will return it in 3 days. Then you receive the search report. The department prepared it. It's now with the attorney or the partner to review. The partner has sent, and here is our invoice. So this kind of journey experience shouldn't be limited just for the commercial companies. There might be room for our professional as well. Social listening, it is an online infringement detection tool, where we place the trademarks, the industrial designs, and the system keeps controlling and monitoring everything that goes out in the online. Marketplaces, social media, Instagram, Facebook, Amazon, Mercado Libre, Alibaba. So you can keep control, and the system is self-learning. So once you start filtering out things that you don't want, the system immediately understands it and will never send you again a similar sort of information. So finally, how much time do I have? 2 minutes, okay. So, well, I spoke already a little bit about the robots that go on the, and this is one of our robots, and actually 2 of our robots working. It's not visible for us because it's in the server. This is just to show all the tasks that these robots are doing. It's going to the patent office, it's going to the courts, it's collecting the information, collecting the documents, placing our system, sending for our clients, sending for the attorney. So this is a system that's operation, and this is operation right now very heavily in a certain area of the litigation department of our firm. We handle cases in Brazil all over the country. So as you can imagine, it's a very large of courts involved, and it's good to be able to collect all this information from the courts. The case analysis and prediction, it's project, but I think that once we have all the decisions and precedents from the patent office, especially in the trademark area, of conflicts, of similarities, cases that have been allowed, cases that have been rejected, if we are able to put it with some intelligence around where you can, if you're finishing your search or if you're analyzing your infringement, you can get some information from the system, say what's your likelihood of winning this this case. So that's also an interesting thing. And finally, we are now working, and this is already in a very good stage of development. It's email and communication reading, interpretation, and distribution. What I want to talk about this, which is interesting, everybody has some sort of communication distribution, is that we are working on detecting the client mood. Is the client upset? Is the client happy? Is the client neutral? Is the client tense? So if you can measure, especially if you have a large number of communication coming in, and if you can measure as managers of the firm, the client's mood, you can act very quickly. You can interact very quickly. Because when the client decides to fire you, it's just the last step. Probably the client has been giving you, according to his view, a lot of signs that he's not happy. So you lost all the chances of really acting to avoid to reach that point. So this system is in our patent department. It's been under our workflow of the patent filing department, and I hope will be operational soon. I think that's enough. I've covered already a lot of...
More than enough.
Yeah, you know that Winston Churchill had a saying that any speech has to be like a woman's skirt. Long enough to cover the subject and short enough to keep the interest. I hope I have kept your interest.
Tenemos 5 minutos para preguntas.
We have 5 minutes for the Q&A session. We ask you to be very brief in your comments and questions. Please wait while you get the microphone. And I would like to highlight the relevance of the language in the value chain. In an AI is trained on the basis of languages. That tool of, and take the word prompt, because if you have not heard it, now you will hear it a lot. The future is in your firms and your talent. You need to be very sophisticated about it, because the prompting become a juridical art. So think when contracting personnel, when training your teams, a lot will go through there.
3 speakers. What is the best legal tech project that is solving problems to people that you like, and what are they doing especially good that is your favorite project that you can see?
I like my projects. They are not yet ready to go operational, but I think in the legal profession for IP, and I'm talking specifically for IP, not for the sort of general practice law firms, I think that it's very important to have a committee to prepare your projects, to use the knowledge of others so that you can build for your own. I mean, my solution might not be the best solution for you, or what we are doing probably is not the best for your firm. So I think you have to customize and make sure that you have something for your needs. But I basically don't have any comparison. Most of the law firms' projects, they are kept confidential. I've talked to 5 large firms about, can you talk a little bit about what you're doing? And they are all, no, we can't.
Yo te diría que lo más importante.
I would say that the most important thing is the juridical databases. It will be very important to get the answers from the data they have and the structure of data. And as we were saying, the question being asked as when you prepare a library. If you don't know what to look for, you will never get a result. Therefore, data is the key, and juridical editorials have very powerful databases, very well structured, and then they are creating specialized tools with all databases are having best responses. We have time for a single question, very briefly.
Translations, and not only translations from one language to another, but translations of cultural concepts. For example, if a company in Latin America is having business with a company in Japan, both are using English as their common language. Nevertheless, it's difficult to really translate some concepts or ideas. Do you have some experience regarding that?
I think that translation in our profession is becoming very critical. There are a lot of systems out there, and they're improving a lot. A lot of machines of self-learning, especially in the patent area. I believe that there will be one day tools to really facilitate the translations all over the world. Right now, what we see is that it is still necessary, the human interaction and the review, and to make sure that all these aspects you mentioned, you know, you have to see what's the culture in a country, the way that's presented an issue, and this is still, I believe, to be developed. But don't make a mistake. This is coming. This is coming.
I would agree with that. I think that that's an area where we're seeing, you know, one of the things I referred to was kind of the frontier areas where you start to see some of the generative AI tools and large language models kind of failing. And I think these, when it comes to translation of cultural sort of nuances and concepts, that's really pushing the limits of where we are right now with generative AI. But much like the sort of chess match that went a different way a year later, the more that, you know, the training data across the world is used, you know, sort of incorporated into these tools, it's only a matter of time before they get significantly, exponentially better. Can I ask a really quick question before we go? How many of you are using large language models and generative AI in your firms or companies right now? So that's probably like, you think about a third? And then how many of you have projects that you are thinking, do you mind I'm asking that question? No. Sorry. How many of you are thinking that this is on the horizon for you and it's a project that is going to be ongoing for you? About the same. Anyone have absolutely no intention of getting into this space whatsoever? We're all going to be David Bowie. We're not going to be, yeah.
At least of unanimity.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to use it. So.
All right. Thank you.
Posiblemente sería una buena idea hacer una encuesta.
Possibly it would be a good idea to run a survey about it. So connect everything we were talking about today and with what you had in the yesterday in-house workshop, and you will see how we put the content of both panels together. Thank you, Mega. Thank you, David. Thank you, Luis, for your generosity to share your viewpoints and contents. Go to lunch. We are 1 minute and 49 seconds ahead, so we are in the range of tolerance. Thank you. We are perfect.
If you